Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I am going to be doing a Rook piercing experience video today. I'm going to talk about the first and the second time I got my Rook piercing done. So if you're unfamiliar with what the Rook is, it's this inner ear piercing, and I took out my other piercings that way it's not too distracting, so then you can see what a Rook piercing is. I hope you can see what that looks like. And if you see me looking down occasionally, it's because I wrote down some notes about the first and the second time I got my Rook done. So I'm just reading off. That way I remember every single thing that I experienced. So I initially got this done last year in March. And then I ended up taking it out in October 2018, just because it was getting caught on things, and at the time I lived up north, so it was cold, and then it was so irritating putting on a winter hat, taking it off, and where it's at, like sometimes the winter hat comes down and it was pulling on it, it was just irritating it, and I had a lot of crusties and I was cleaning it regularly. It was just a mess. So I figured, let me take it out. Even though I love the piercing, let me take it out and let it breathe, heal up, and then I re-pierced it. Well, I went to the tattoo parlor and got it re-pierced because I don't do it at home. And I got it re-pierced professionally, just like I did the first time. But we moved back down to the south, so there's no cold weather, freezing rain, snow, all that. We don't need the winter hats, all that jazz. So I figured, let me get it re-pierced because I missed the piercing so much. So I got it re-pierced 2 weeks ago. So it was July 22nd of 2019 that I got it re-pierced. And the difference between getting it pierced the first time versus the second time is obviously the climate change and having to put on the hat, the winter hat, take it off, put it on, take it off. That was irritating it a lot. So I found that the second time getting it pierced was a lot better. Both times there was pressure. I didn't hear any pop, just like when I got my tragus done. I didn't hear anything pop. It was just pressure. Now, the first time I got it pierced, after it was pierced, like 20 minutes after it got pierced, it was like a heat sensation just to that area. So it felt like my whole ear was on fire, whereas the second time I got it done, I didn't have the fire sensation, but I did have like a stinging sensation. And the stinging sensation the second time around, it didn't last long. It lasted probably like 30-40 minutes and it was done, and that was it. There wasn't any throbbing like the first time. During the first time when it was healing, this section of my ear was swollen. It was just super fat. It was like about that wide right in the section. It was just so swollen. And you could not see the bottom portion of the bar right here. Don't worry, my hands are clean. I washed my hands before. That way I know, because I knew I was going to be touching it. But this part was so swollen the first time I got it pierced that you couldn't even see the bar right here. So this time around you can see that it's not swollen and the bottom part of the bar is exposed, which they allow for swelling, so that's why the bar is so long. Also, the first time it was swollen, like I said, and the swelling was for about 3 days, and then the swelling subsided. I took Tylenol as well as iced the swollen area, and that seemed to help, as well as continue doing my H2 Ocean cleaning in the morning and once before I go to bed. And then when it was in the 2 weeks healing the first time around, I used to do the sea salt paste soaks, where you take the non-iodized sea salt. You gotta make sure it's non-iodized, because if it's iodized, it's going to burn. So the non-iodized sea salt, and I put it with some warm water and made it dissolve, and just put it on the area, like the top and the bottom part, and like made it like not actually totally dissolve, but like made it like a paste consistency and just let it sit there for about 15-20 minutes, and then I rinsed the area and then applied some more H2O to the area just to clean it up. And I made the mistake the first time of pushing the bar up and down, and don't do that because it irritates the area and then you start getting those piercing bumps on it. And I got 2 piercing bumps. It was like 3 weeks apart. So the one piercing bump would heal, and then 3 weeks later I got another piercing bump in the same area. And I always got it on the top part here, nothing on the bottom. And as you can see, this time around I learned my lesson, so it's fine. But when you are cleaning it, it's fine to push this ball up to clean that area and then push it down. That way this part is exposed, that way you can clean inside there. That is fine. But what I was doing the first time when I got it pierced that irritated the heck out of that area was just sitting here and just like pushing it up, pushing it down, thinking that I needed to move the jewelry. You don't need to move the jewelry. Plus, you got to remember, when it's not cleaned, you're pushing up the jewelry, dirt is getting in there and all this crap, and then you're pushing it down and pushing more of the dirt and the crap into your piercing. So try not to do that so much. Just move the bar when you're cleaning and leave it alone. Don't fiddle with it. Just let it be. So the other thing, let's see. So I touched on the throbbing, I touched on the swelling, I touched on the sea salt soaks, the sea salt wash, the H2O spray. I also used when the piercing got healed, so like 5-6 months into the piercing, when I had the piercing, I used Provon soap as well in the shower just to wash the area, just to clean it up even better. I mean, the piercing's already healed, but just to clean that area, I used to use the Provon soap. But I wouldn't advise using the Provon soap. Sorry, my color is driving me crazy. I wouldn't advise using the Provon soap when it's in the initial healing process, just because it really, really burns. So when your piercing is totally healed and you get those occasional crusties or the flare-ups, then I would advise using the Provon soap, because that really does clean it up and heal it really, really well. Other than that, the cleaning process, I would say just follow what your piercer tells you to do, cleaning wise and sleeping wise and all that good stuff. Obviously, you're not supposed to sleep on a new piercing because that irritates it, and that also causes the jewelry to squeeze the piercing area as well as cause the piercing bumps. So don't sleep on that area. And initially, the first time, I made a mistake as well, getting the piercing the first time around. So when I got my Rook piercing, I had also got a double helix in my left ear. So I'm a natural tummy sleeper and side sleeper. So I was finding myself sleeping on my left ear where I had my double helix, and then I had to turn because it was excruciating pain, and I flipped and forgot that I had my Rook piercing in my right ear. So I was a total disaster, and it was just not a pretty situation. So I ended up taking out my double helix, which I miss them now, and I'm most likely going to get those re-pierced. But I'm going to wait until my Rook piercing is healed before I get the double helix done again, because I'm not going to do that whole rolling over and screwing up my piercings. So that's another tip. When you get piercings, even though the Rook is hidden, it's still somewhat to the surface of your ear, so you not necessarily can sleep on that ear. And you will know your body when you lay down, whatever, you turn, you'll feel it. And if you're dead asleep, believe me, you will wake up when your ear starts hurting. you'll realize that you accidentally turned and laying on your freshly pierced area. So that's another tip. The other thing that was different from the first to the second time I got my rook piercing was, let's see, I said not to play with the jewelry, not to twist it. It's fine to put it up and down when you're cleaning. Oh, the other thing is don't change your jewelry too soon. Meaning, if the piercing is not fully healed, try not to change the jewelry because, like I said, when you initially get piercing, like get the area pierced, as you can see, they use a very, very long jewelry. Like the bar is really, really long, if you can see that there. The other bars are shorter when it's healed, and the reason they use a long one, obviously common sense, it's for the swelling. So it's to accommodate the swelling. So as you can see how far the bar is extended, some people, their ear swells to that point. So they have a longer bar. But when your piercing is healed, the bar is a lot shorter. So I will show you what I'm talking about just a second. All right, sorry, the video is like all over the place. Okay, I'm back. I got my jewelry box here. So I have, sorry, I gotta look through all of my crap. Okay, so this is the rook piercing jewelry when it's healed. Sorry, I was just ripping the little tab off, if you heard that sound. And this one is a 16 gauge 3/8 of an inch rook jewelry. So let me just try to get it out of the package here. You're not going to really see the difference just because the initial piercing jewelry is in my ear, but this is what the jewelry looks like when it's healed. The piercing is healed and I can put this jewelry in. So this one has 2 clear stones and it just looks like this. If you can see that. Folks even use like the eyebrow piercing jewelry. And I don't know if you can really notice that it's a lot shorter. I don't know how I'm going to show this. But it is a lot shorter than what's in there. So the whole thing is like it will, I don't even know if you can notice the difference. Yeah, you can somewhat see it. So it's a lot shorter than the jewelry that you're initially pierced with, because when your piercing is healed fully, there won't be any more swelling, hopefully. So you can change it out, but I wouldn't advise people to do a quick change with the jewelry just because you might think that it's healed, but it might be healed on the outside, but internally it might not be fully healed. And taking out the jewelry and putting in another one might just give it a flare up. So just to be on the safe side, they say cartilage piercings can take even up to a year to heal. They say like 8-9 months to a year to fully heal on most people. So if you're unsure, just go back to your piercer and ask him or her, and they can also look at it to see if it is fully healed, and they can also help you change it out just in case, you know, you're unable to change it out. And like I said, you should know your body because it is like in an intricate place on your ear. Like you have the area right here where like a forward helix would go. So it's kind of a tight space. And usually the piercer who did my piercing, she threaded it from the bottom up, and then she put the ball, like to screw on the ball, she did it at the top versus going down and then screwing the ball down here. So I'm going to see when it's healed if I'm able to do it on my own, or if I'll just go back to her and just have her change out the initial jewelry for the one that I just showed you. Because I changed my conch by myself. That was really, really easy, easier than I thought it was going to be. But when I did my tragus, I could not change the jewelry. Like I just could not fiddle to get in that small area. So I had to go back to the piercer and have him change it, because I got my tragus and my conch pierced by a different person, and then I got, in comparison to who I got my rook to get my rook pierced, I cannot speak. Because like I said, when I got my rook pierced, the first time I was up north, and the second time I was down south, and the other piercer that I went to down in Georgia, he moved, and there is a female there now. She's amazing. So I got her to pierce my rook the second time around. So that completes this video of the rook experience. I hope I touched on everything. I guess pain-wise, on a scale of 1 to 10, the first time the pain was about a 5, just because it was just a bear, not only to heal, but the initial 2-3 weeks of it was just so irritating. It was just so painful. It was just a constant heat, a constant throbbing. It was just irritating. The pressure wasn't a problem, both the first and the second time. The second time, all I had was the pressure, and that was just when the needle was going through my ear. It was just a pressure. It wasn't a pain. Like, you could just feel pressure. Basically, what pressure is, like someone pushing, that's what it felt like. So that was the only difference. On the pain scale of 1 to 10, the second time was a lot better. It was about a 3. It wasn't bad at all. Like I said, it was just pressure, and you could feel the needle go through. But that was it. It was just a pinch, but a lot of pressure. I think the first time she did it freehand, she didn't use a clamp, but the second time she did use a clamp. So maybe that's why the second time I felt the pressure more than the first time, but it wasn't painful at all. The first time when I did it, I said, if I ever retire this piercing, I'm never going to get it done again. But I missed it so much, and I was like, I don't care about how much pain it is, I'm going to get it done. So I'm actually happy that I did it the second time, got it done the second time, because the second time around was so much better than the first time. So that was just amazing. But out of all my piercings that I have, that is by far the only one that's like up on the pain scale. So like I said, it would be like a 2 to 3 the second time around. The first time was a 5 out of 10, but the second time was between a 2 to 3 pain scale. The rest of my piercings were like 1, because I can't say 0, but it was like a 1 out of 10 on the pain scale. But that is the rook piercing. I'll give you like a closer look of it there. Hopefully you can see it, because my head is turned to the side. I don't know if you can see it or not, or if it's focusing, whatever. That concludes my video on my rook piercing experience. I hope you guys see what the rook looks like. I don't know if you can see it there, or if it's focusing, or if I'm even in the frame. I have no idea. But most people know what the rook looks like, and there are a lot of videos here on YouTube as well as pictures online. You can look it up, but like I said, you can see the gist of what the rook piercing is. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and please hit the subscribe and the thumbs up. It helps me out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Shot. I am way too close to the camera. I know you guys don't want to see all my blemishes, but I just wanted to come back on here to show you that piercing bumps do happen. I know the last 2 days I was rolling over on this right ear where my newly pierced rook piercing is, and I don't know if you can see, is it showing it really well? But there is a minor bump. I pushed the jewelry up that you can see the little piercing bump up there. So that has happened to my tragus when I got that done 6 years ago. And all I did was just use tea tree oil once a day, every other day, and for a week. And that seemed to work, and it got rid of the piercing bump. So that's what I'm going to do with my rook piercing and get rid of that tip. When you're getting piercings done, make sure you go to a professional piercer who uses the needle versus the piercing gun at Claire's and all those little rinky-dinky places, because that's what happens with your piercing holes. As you can see, they're all jig-jag, but you can only see them, thank goodness, when I'm not wearing any jewelry in it. When I have the jewelry, it's perfectly straight. So I just wanted to mention that because my ear was all up in the camera just now. So yeah, and I know I would have seen that if somebody else had posted that. So I just wanted to mention that's why the piercing holes down on my lobes are like jagged and all over the place, because I got it pierced at Claire's. Didn't know any better back when I was a teenager. So yeah, that's what happens.